Christine, would you call the roll, please?
Larry Porter,
Here.
Jack Looney,
Here.
Garland Land,
Here.
Joe Zack, Mark McDonald,
Here.
David McDowell,
Here.
Bridget McCandless,
Okay. Board members, we're all here. We got a quorum for here, but the first thing we need to get eliminated some housekeeping as far as. Well, first we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Also,
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Mr. Porter, can you tell me who made the motion? I didn't get that.
I think Jack made a motion. We approved the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And Garland seconded it.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye or yes.
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 Okay, motion approved. Now we need to do some housekeeping as far as we need to do an election on a new chairperson and a vice chair. I hear nominations at this time.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McDonald, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Larry Porter for the chairmanship of PUAB for this coming year.
Second.
Okay, we got a second on that.
Yes.
Any other nominations?
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
can you tell me who the second was on that, please?
Mr. McDonald nominated me. And who seconded? Jack, or did you second?
No. It was David McDowell.
Oh, David McDowell seconded it.
Thank you.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Larry Porter for chairperson, say aye.
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 Nomination passed. Next will be nomination for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would like to nominate Mark McDonald as vice chair.
Okay.
I second
Have a
that.
second.
Jack Looney
Second. Jack Looney, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we have a new chairperson and a vice chair. You got all that, Christina?
Yes, I believe I do. Thank you.
Okay. If it's all right with all the members that are here today, we're going to hear reports from the people, and I would like to, after their reports, go down the roll and let each individual ask questions or make statements to that department if they wish. That way it's easier for Christine to take minutes on this for the next meeting. Is that all right with everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, reports. We have utility financial for June. City Finance and Administration Department. In addition, of the interest bonds and reserve updates for 63 days. We have somebody from finance here. Do I have somebody from Finance Department here?
Mr. Chair, this is Adam Norris. I can see Brian's on the line. He might be having some difficulties with his speaker right now. And while he's getting that situation addressed, I do want to ask, just Christina has an important job here of taking minutes and being accurate. So if everybody could, when they ask a question or they make a statement, just state their name so she can keep a good record here.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it individually. I was going to call on each member at a time. Is that all right, you think? That way she'll know who's talking when I call on the member.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
This is Brian Kidney, the Finance Director. I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine, Brian. Thank you.
Well, I apologize about that earlier. I had a little technical issue.
That's no problem. We all got them. You got the addition of interest of bonds and reserve updates for 263 days. You're going to report on, is that correct?
Well, what I do have is the financial statements from June, and I could touch on those questions as we're going through those, or if there's a specific question. The debt service does include, the debt service line item that you see in the financials do include both principal and interest.
Okay.
Brian, this is Kendra. On the cover sheet we put out there on their Word document, it does have the principal and interest broken out on that page.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we have that in front of us. Anything else you want to speak on, or you ready for the question?
Yeah, I think the other question was about the days of cash or the reserves, and you'll see on
Yes.
these financial, the latest financials. I think there was some interest in making sure that you see how much the 63 days equaled to, and so you'll see that you'll have the 63 days broken out, and then you'll also see the additional 27 days to make up management's 90-day that we look at.
Okay. Any questions, Garland? I'll start with you.
Yes, I have a couple of comments and questions. First, with the question, I noticed that on a couple of the bonds, if I can find those here, yeah, on the 2012 bond and the 2016 bond, the 2012 bond, there was only $150,000 of principal paid, and the 2016 bond, there was no principal paid, and I was wondering why there was such a low principal paid on those two bonds.
Well, that's basically, it's how the bond issue was structured when it was originally issued. Those issues do predate me, but historically, if I look back on the actual debt service, I believe the intent was to structure the transaction so that as the basically keep the payments relatively the same. And so in order to do that, it appears that in the past they pushed more principal out to longer periods in order to keep that debt service fairly level.
But I guess I don't understand why we're not. I mean, usually when you have an amortization schedule, you're paying both principal and interest, and here we're not getting any principal paid off on the 2016, a very small principal on the 2012, which is an older bond.
Mm-hmm.
it seems kind of strange that we're not getting any principal paid down on these bonds.
Well, again, I believe it was just the intent when these were issued to structure it in a way that you pushed out and delayed the principal payment on the outstanding bonds. I do want to. This is probably a good place to educate a little bit on how municipal debt actually works. These are bond issues. They're actual individual bonds, and they're not necessarily amortization schedules. So when you're looking, so for instance, in order to do this, they would have issued a series of bonds, but not have any of the principal of that bonds come due in these years. So all they're paying, or all we're paying, is the interest on on all the bonds, but none of the principals coming due in the years that you're talking about. Again, without understanding exactly why they did that, it's hard to answer the way it was structured, the way it was. However, again, in my experience, when you see those things, you're seeing managements or the financial advisors attempting to structure the bonds to make sure that there's a level debt service on all the debt as a whole.
Okay. Obviously I'm not familiar with these types of debt arrangements, but I guess we never had a discussion on our, as a PUAB, on our level of debt, and this is the first time that we've actually looked at our figures, and I'm taking more interest in how much debt that we have for all three of our entities, and it may be that this isn't the time to have that discussion, but I think at some time we need to talk about the level of debt that we're carrying, because that affects our rates and affects our reserves when we carry debt, and when we're not paying principal, we're just paying interest. Then that affects a lot of things, and obviously those were past decisions when the bonds were released, and probably this isn't the time to discuss those decisions. But I just noted that was kind of a strange situation, that we're not paying any principal or very little principal on some of this.
No, I think these are relevant questions, and actually I get a little bit too excited. People say, especially my wife says, about when I start talking about debt financing, because it is obviously exciting and adventurous and full of interesting knowledge. But the way you structure the debt and how you put together the full picture of the debt is really important. And you're exactly right. It has ultimate impact on, in our case, Standard & Poor's ratings. I will say, looking at these that are actually outstanding debt, according to Standard & Poor's, are actually in pretty decent shape. But I think it's a really good idea, and I would be, I'd like to do it in order to explain, especially to the newer board members, kind of do a review of our outstanding debt. And so maybe I'm not sure about next month, but I would leave it to the board and to Adam, if he wants us to come back and actually do a presentation on the outstanding debt. We'd be happy to do it.
I would appreciate that, and I think it would be helpful to have that on all three utilities. We especially WPC, we have a lot higher debt load there than on the other two, and understanding that one. The other thing I want to comment on is I appreciate the fact now that we have the final, or what may not be final, but at least the preliminary year-to-date fiscal year for 2020 for the three utilities, and it shows that for IPL that we lost money, a small amount of money, but we lost money for the year after we paid the money to the city. It was that probably most of that was due to the fact that we lowered our rates. When you look at the charges for the other two utilities were close to the budget, but the charges were lower for IPL. So I thought, first of all, it might be because of COVID that people weren't paying their bills, and I'm sure that's to some extent, but it's an even larger deficit for IPL. So I expect that it's relating to the fact that we dropped the rates, and of course we weren't able to make the budget that way. But I think it would be helpful if we could have a 5-year trend analysis to see where we stand over the last historical years, for the last 5 years, in terms of just taking the broad categories of operating revenues, operating expenses, your bolded areas, and then the net revenues, excess revenues, or negative amounts, to see where we have what's been going on for the past 5 years. I don't know if this is an atypical year where we lost money, or have we been losing money over the last years or not. But I think that would be helpful to us to know what has been the trend in terms of revenues and expenses and so forth. Are those figures available that you could pull those together for us?
Yeah, actually, if you'd like, I could share my screen right now and actually show you the revenue side.
On the phone, so unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Let me interrupt. Garland?
Uh-huh.
Could we make this the bond and that on a later meeting so that we can, Christine's got the notes on it, that we can then study all that, and he can bring all that forward to us, hopefully in a face-to-face meeting.
Yes, whenever we could do it, or if you could prepare it, in the next couple of months, whenever, and then send it out to us in advance.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful to have that information so we can see what the trend
Okay.
is.
Christine's got note of that, and if it's all right, I'll go to Jack Looney. Are you through, Garland? Or you need anything else?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
this is
yeah.
Christina.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, can I jump in for 1 second here?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a few requests that I've been getting. When someone starts speaking, if they could please say their name. People are not knowing whoever everybody is that's speaking. And also just a reminder to please keep your mics muted when you're not speaking as well, please.
Okay. I'm calling their names individually as we go, so you could write them down on the questions and statements. The next one's Jack Looney. Okay.
Thank you.
Jack?
This is Looney, and I have no questions regarding bonds. I do have a question for finances to administration, but we can save that for item C.
Okay. Item C.
Well,
What is,
to get that's on the agenda out of the way first.
okay. Mark McDonald, do you have something?
Yes, I do. This is Mark McDonald. I do appreciate Mr. Land's comments about the debt. This debt has been a subject more and more when some of us have called for a rate reduction, further rate reductions to our rate that are still way too high. That's a boundary for us. We have this this thing that we fall back onto is debt. The real question is, I've got a couple really. Brian, have we depreciated out everything at the plant, or is that something will we be writing off in regards to the depreciation? Brian Kidney?
Oh, sorry, I had my mute on again. This is
That's
Brian
okay.
Kidney, Finance Director again. And I believe you're referring to the Blue Valley
Yes.
plant.
It's the only one we have.
So I believe I might have to rely on Kendra, our utility CFO, to jump in here, but I believe it was not completely depreciated out. And so what will happen is there will be it's called an extraordinary gain or loss on however the disposal the disposal of the improvements or the plant happens.
For the asset itself, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm looking at a listing of our fixed assets. I can't tell you right off the bat what that the net depreciated amount is, but we can get that information back to you. And
Yeah,
how,
I think that's
and
going
how
to be
we'll
very
treat
important for us to find out how much is going to be sitting out there as an extraordinary event that's taking place here that in actuality should be a one-time expense, and that's going to hurt tremendously. The other thing that I have a question on, during all the discussions that we've had about reserves, and that is a considerable one. Now we're going to be moving, because of best practices, possibly to a 90-day reserve, which I don't have any problems with as long as the city council decides that's what they want to use as their reserve number. Instead of loaning the city or making that line of credit for that $25 million, wouldn't it have been more advantageous for us to pay down some of this debt that Mr. Land is talking about? Has any discussions taken place for that?
Well, I'm not going to be able to answer your question about
The 25 million.
some of the political decisions that's been made.
Sure. I understand what your position is.
So I'll start. So first of all, I do want to go back to that extraordinary cost. That really should not impact any type of like Moody's or S&P or them looking at the value of our operations, and that's the purpose of why you do call it extraordinary. And just for the rest of the board, what we're referring to is this gain or loss on disposal of plant. It happens after net income. So when you show on a financial report, it will be kind of what we call below the line. And it's just a way to inform the readers that, hey, this also happened, but they don't want to include it in the operating revenue and expenses of the utility, just because, again, it would kind of throw off the readers on, well, it's not fully an expense. Money on it?
So. If there's a bond out there for that amount of money, you still have to pay it, right?
There is no outstanding debt on that plant.
Okay, great. I guess it was my first question.
Okay, I guess I had missed that part about there's debt outstanding.
No. So Brian, you're not aware of anybody saying, hey, let's take some of this unrestricted reserves and pay down the debt? I don't know why that wouldn't be a part of the discussion.
Well, one of the things
Not
that
only for
you're
the
limited.
IPL, but for water and water pollution control.
Okay, to answer the question, I don't believe any of the debt has the ability to pay off early until, I think, in a couple months we might be able to pay off one of those early. So again, getting back to the bonds, we enter into a sell agreement with these bonds, and the bondholders are assured that there's a certain amount of time before we try to refund any of them. I know we do have some of the bonds that are coming due for refunding here shortly, but as of right now, we don't have any bonds that there's no way to pay down, if you will.
Okay, so you can't call them in.
We will be able to here shortly, but as of right now, no. But
I hope that we will get that information so we can recommend that whatever is callable would be a great opportunity for us to reduce the debt, as Mr. Land is indicating, as a possible problem for us. I think that would be a great use of those funds.
I agree, Mark. I think that discussion, we ought to be having that discussion.
I think so too.
Yeah, we will, but please, for Christina's sake, let one person talk at a time, please.
Oh, this is still Mark. I'm sorry. This is Mark still. The last thing I'd like to say is, Garland, part of the issue that I see as a problem for IPL now and going forward is for IPL to be paying for electricity and giving it away. The street light issue is a big one. I know at one point it was over $1 million a year that was coming into IPL that no longer is coming into IPL. In fact, we gave a refund of $666,000. I think that the city councilmen need to take that into account. And I've asked for a report in the past for all expenditures that IPL pays out or pays out in lieu of giving away electricity. Hopefully they're keeping track of that. And all the sponsorships, memberships that IPL have, those all play a role to the bottom line for IPL. I don't think it's all that that small 6% reduction has had on the income for IPL. So hopefully we're going to get that report, right, Brian?
I'm sorry. Could you? There was a lot in there. I didn't hear the specific question.
I'm sorry I ramble. I apologize. Things like the sponsorship of the Mavericks, that $40,000. Do we do? And I know it's come up before with some kind of connection with the city council. Do we do grants? What things are actually going out of IPL that IPL it's not providing electricity to, transmission or distribution of electricity? Those are the kind of things that I think we need to bring to the attention of the city councilmen so that they can decide, are those real valid things that we need to continue, or is it something that we can cut back on to help IPL be able to be in a position to lower rates? Because our rates are way out of line for a municipal utility. And I guess I say that every time I get a chance to talk about it. I sure hope that somebody will start listening. So that's all I have on this one. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm sorry, but I think there was still a question there. I believe that if I could try to make an attempt at rephrasing the question, I believe the question you're asking is, are there expenditures that are not directly tied to the operation and distribution of the city's electric utility?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I'm going to ask. I would defer this to Jim Nell, and as he's recently, we've just implemented our new budget. I believe we can work with Jim to present that part of the budget, because we would have just done our budget and he may be able to help us with that. But
That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to rope you in on this, Jim.
I got it.
Brian, Jim, both of you, this is Larry Porter. Could we get that report on your budget for the next meeting, please?
This is Jim Nail, Power and Light. I will make a note of it.
I appreciate it. Next, ask question, Mr. McDowell. Do you have any questions or statements?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I know that we're talking about long-term finance, which is very important, and I would actually like to see that in a study session as well, so we're not boring everybody with it. But I am concerned about our current situation with people's ability to pay their utility bills. And would it be asking too much to have a percentage of how many people are delinquent compared to a year ago and maybe 2 years ago? In other words, run us a report so we know where we are. This thing, we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know how many people are going to lose their jobs. But I know that there are people out there that are having problems already. And since part of our job is to make sure we have enough money to pay our bills, I think it'd be important for us to know if there's a delinquency problem yet and compared to years past at the same period of time. Would that be asking too much to have a report the next meeting to let us know where we are?
Mr. McDowell, Larry Porter. This will probably be brought up in the next topic from the water with Mr. McLaughlin and Dan Montgomery over the billing and where they're at. So that'll probably be answered for you. We can get that report, I know, and they have furnished it before. So I'd like to defer that to the number 3 on, number 3 on the water. Is that all right with you?
That's quite all right. Thank you very much. I should read more. I always wait for the movies to come out. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Is there anybody else on the line, Christine? Hello?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
This is Larry Porter. Is there anybody else? Is Bridget here or Jozak yet?
No, I don't believe so. However, Ms. McCandless did send me an email saying that she is listening online. So if at some point you'd like to, speak to her or something, that'd be great, probably. But I don't believe Mr. Zach was ever able to get on.
Okay. Well, this would be a good time to welcome her aboard from the whole board. If everybody could say hi to Bridget and Miss McLaughlin, is it? Welcome her, and I'm looking forward to working with her. I talked to her earlier. Anybody else got anything to scare her with about this board?
Just welcome aboard.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the next number 2 on the reports. Lisa and I talked today, so that I'd like to, Christine, at this time, take that off of the agenda. It's been resolved.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll do. Thank you.
Jack Looney to Mr. Chairman.
Jack, go ahead.
I'd like one additional question to City Finance and Administration.
Okay.
Before we move to the subject.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Apologize for being sheltered here, and I don't have my information flow as good as it should be. And as usual, I'm probably out of date. But the question is to the administration in regard to the article I saw in the paper where we have a lawsuit against the city and certain administrative individuals. Can you give us a status on that? It was regarding overcharging through rates.
So,
Ryan,
Adam, would you like me to handle this or to cover this?
If you'd like, or please do if you want.
Yes, we are in discovery as part of that lawsuit, and we don't really have any other update other than that.
Okay, that you're preparing a response to the suit then.
Well, actually, yes, that's a good place to put that.
That's discovery, Jack.
Yes, I was putting it in my term. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything
thank you
else?
very much. Yeah, that's what I expected, but I just wanted to make the board aware that it was there, if they weren't aware, and to anything that might have come up since the filing. Thank you.
Okay. Larry Porter, Christine, did you understand that I'm eliminating number 2 from the water pollution?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chair.
Lisa, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the board?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Okay, water. Matt, do you have an update on the printing and outsourcing?
Yes, I do. A brief update for you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just wanted to catch you up to date. We took a look at our utility bill printing process, and in that we were looking at to improve our reliability of that. Currently, we print in-house in our city print shop. We have one employee that is taking care of all of that, which does a great job when that person is here and available. The problems become when that person is off for various reasons. We then have to find a backup, and so we've been okay, but looking down in the future, we wanted to come up with a more reliable source. We also looked at cost savings in this measure. So what we did was we went out for an RFP. We had 12 responses to that RFP to find out a source to do this printing. Put together a team of 5 individuals to review those responses, which I want to say 12 responses was a really good number to have. That was exceptional. There's telling us that there's a lot of companies out there that does this. So we then settled as a team on a company called SureBill to do this process for us. We're looking at hopefully in the next few months to have this in operation to where we will be able to outsource this. SureBill, by the way, was not only our best bid, but it was also our lowest bid that we received. So looking at
Yay.
numbers, what's that?
I just said yay. We finally did something right.
Looking preliminary, we should see some good cost savings of this as well from going when you take into consideration the staff, but also the equipment that we had to lease, the supplies that we had to produce, the maintenance of all that equipment. Taking that into consideration, we should see a substantial annual savings from this. So that's where we're at. We'll keep you up to speed once we get going. The bills, by the way, should not change visually in any manner. We're going shipping the same data and templates that we have currently, so shouldn't really see anything right off the bat. But the company's been good in discussions to the date to look for ways to save additional money for us. So we may see some changes, but that'll be down the road.
Thank you, Matt. I'll start with Mr. McDowell, being you're wanting to talk to the water. Is Dan there today?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McDowell, you wanted to ask those questions you had about the delinquency and the shutting off.
Yes.
I know that we started shutting off Wednesday. Is that right, Dan?
Yes, we did started disconnecting yesterday, and we had a few today. We won't be shutting off tomorrow. The temperature is approaching 95 with a heat index 105, so that we won't be disconnecting.
Okay.
As far as the report, I could probably give you an up-to-date report for the next meeting. There are a few more that we have. Of course, since we're not there's no penalty for us right now. We're not charging it. We had not been disconnecting. There was no charges for not paying. The penalties started back up today. So if you don't pay your bill starting the 15th, then you will pay the penalty for that. We've been losing about probably $100,000 a month in penalties. But when there's no reason to pay, or there's no requirement to pay, then oftentimes people just will avoid paying that bill. Granted, there are folks out there that are being affected by this and would not be able to pay their bills, and we'll be dealing with those through the agencies that to share that with them. But we could get a report to answer your question for next month, if that would be helpful, or a current update. And we'll know more once we start doing these shutoffs. People are making arrangements. We're allowing them 6 months to pay back, make arrangements for up to 6 months to pay back. So in order for them to get caught up on their bills to avoid being shut off.
You know what? Next month is fine. God, that's a terrible echo. Bottom line, I would like to know what percentage of our people are 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or however long you carry someone for this year, last year, and the year before, so I can see what kind of trend, if there is a trend. I think that, if this COVID goes on another 6 to 12 months, I can see us having a major problem. And, I don't know if there's a way that we can get around it or not, but it's something that we need to be conscious of, and we need to be working on a plan, how we're going to maintain everything else if we don't have the dollars coming in. And that's my only concern. And next month would be fine if you could work up those figures so we can see if we have a problem. We may not have a problem. That's all I have.
Yeah, I think what you'll find is that we thought there would be a bigger problem we had, but that we'll address it next month. Probably is the best thing, just to give the facts. As far as the 30, 60, 90, 120 days, we'll have to figure out what we're able to give with the reports that we can pull out of the system. So, but we will we'll put something together and give that to the city manager and Adam to take a look at, and then report back to you.
That'd be great. That would be great. Thank you very much.
Mr. McDonald, you got anything?
McDonald?
I'm sorry. No. Mark, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a question for Matt. Matt, I'm praying that those addresses are class certified and that they will maintain the addressing for you. That's going to save you a ton of money on spoiled postage. Is that the case?
Well, we're still working on some details there. One thing we have taken into consideration is our address bank not only touches our utility billing, but it also involves our GIS system and multiple levels. So we're trying to get one consistent address list. And yes, we're following postal practices, and they will be reviewing our addresses as they kick out those bills. They can provide us a report that we can try and update and match, but the details of who exactly is keeping that and updating that is still kind of a work in progress. So I'll keep you up to date on that.
Wow, that doesn't sound encouraging. I think everybody should only have one address, and it should be in the postal database, and that's really, I think, where we should be focusing. The other thing is, I'm hoping they're not using your program that you guys were using for barcoding, because the barcoding was a mess.
I'm going to have to defer what exactly we're going to be using. We've got barcodes of our own, and they will have some of their own for their equipment to produce those bills. But again, we've got testing to do. Everything's got to work before we go live with this. So this is not something we're just going to throw out there, if you will.
Well, I applaud you for your efforts. and it's something that should have been done a long time ago. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, we were using Mailers Plus and going through the post office, but there's multiple layers. You know, as an ex-postmaster, you're probably more familiar than most of us about how the postage system works, but there's all kinds of issues out there, and not necessarily all of them are internal.
Now, the only issue that's out there, if you don't have a right barcode on there, it's not going to get home. And
I
that's
got you.
You guys were that's what we were experiencing, and you were paying the postage. And I'm hoping that whatever you're doing now gets that cleared up. That's all I got.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mark. Jack, you have anything?
I do, regarding bill printing. Just want to point out that outsourcing is a trend that most organizations are using these days, but somewhat like our power plants. Once we do away with our machinery, once we let our knowledgeable employees either retire or assume other functions, then on short-term contracts, we then become a captive audience. So although the prices look good today, they may not tomorrow, even under competitive bidding. I'd like to suggest that an age-old process of cross-training is something that does work, but it does take supervisory input to implement it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Jack. Garland, do you have anything?
Yes, a couple of things. If we're going to have the report next week in terms of how many people are haven't paid their bills, it might be well to have the same we've talked about having the presentation from Doug on CSL, and I think that would be timely to have that presentation, because CSL is part of the solution to helping those people with their bills, because they have various sources of funding to assist people, and he can talk about how they have been helping people with their bills and the source of funding that he expects for the future.
Garland, can I interrupt you real quick? I talked to Christine about that, and we're going to get him here next month, and he'll have everything printed out for us. Okay?
Great. The second thing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Second thing I want to mention in terms of the printing, we have talked a lot about that we need to have something on our billing forms related to making it easier for people to donate to CSL. And we've never solved that problem of how, right now, the only way you can donate to iShare is writing out a check. And that isn't a good solution. And I've heard that we're going to do something about that. Now, if we're contracting that out, and I just heard that we're going to have the same billing form as what we presently have, well, that doesn't take into account that we have to have a different form, a different application on that form that says how you can make a donation to iShare. What's being done on that?
I'm not sure what to answer on that right now. That really wasn't covered over this outsourcing of the utility bill print. That would be more of a function of our CIS system and what it can provide. I know we've reviewed this in the past, and I don't know what the status of this. Dan, you might have some more input in it than me, but sorry.
Yeah, that's definitely a question, and I think it's would be something. We're running this like a business, and we're being instructed on what we put on there and what we don't. So we've not moved forward on anything or been directed to do that. So
I'm sorry. We've had this discussion for over a year now, and I've been, I've heard that we're going to solve this problem, and I really want to keep on the forefront that that there has to be a better solution than what we have right now, and I hope that this hasn't been lost.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Mark McDonald. I totally
Hi,
agree.
Mark.
I agree with Garland. We've been dinking around with this issue about being able to add statements on messaging onto the bills. In this day and age, that should have been something that could have been done in a week. If we are supporting the iShare program through our billing system, that should be happening right now. It shouldn't be, if we're going to run this like a business or not. This is what someone at some point decided was a good plan, and we need to make sure that it's a viable plan. It's very disappointing to hear that. Thank you.
Jack Looney with just a short comment.
Jack.
I believe if the citizens of Independence feel that they can help more unfortunate neighbors, then that is part of doing business in Independence. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jack. Anything else, Garland?
That's all.
Hey, Larry.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
Dan. So
Hi, Dan.
the new, we're upgrading the billing system, and we're hoping that has the ability to allow for them to either round up or some other way to get money directed towards those accounts. So, but again, this is something we're working on, but it's not quite there.
Okay, I appreciate it, Dan. You gotta look at our point too. We sit on this board and try to do the best we can for the citizens of this city and the ratepayers. And a lot of times, we kind of set our expectations a little high. And I understand your situations up there at the city, and especially now with all this going on in the government and the COVID-19. But we need to bring it up every time we're with you that if something like this hadn't been done, and it's been that length of time that we've had it for over a year. And but again, I appreciate your help on it, and we'll go from there. But don't expect us to not bring it up again.
Well, we can bring a response back next month too, if that's all right.
Thank you.
That'd be great. I really appreciate that, Dan. With that being said, can we go to item number 4 on the IPL comparison of IPL employees count before and after Blue Valley closing? I guess that would be you, Jim.
This is Jim Nail, IPL, and yes, I can give you that data. I think it's important that we go back to not just last May, but look at how we got where we are. In 2016, Power and Light had 238 employees. By 2018, we had dropped to 229, and that was primarily there were 9 positions that we cut after we closed the Missouri City plant. So in 2018, we had 229. Now we currently have 181 positions. So that's about almost a 25% cut from where we were to where we are now.
Okay, that sounds good. I saw you're transferring a lot of people around. This is Larry Porter, Christine. I'm sorry. Jim, I see you're moved some people around. My new meter reader came from the plant. I guess you made some moves there.
We did. There were 4 positions that were vacant, and we had over the last couple of years we had allowed some positions to go vacant, so that with the anticipation that we might have to make some moves, and there was a vacant meter reader position, so one of our IBEW employees selected that.
Okay. He's learning the route. I walked him around a little bit and showed him.
The supervisor said he's doing a great job.
Okay. Garland, you got any questions on the Power and Light, on the manpower?
Were there actually any layoffs or from dropping from 238 to 181?
we had 10 people that left. There were 7 IBEW employees and 3 staff.
When you say left, that means they were laid off?
They were able to select a severance package. So we didn't just kick them out the door. We helped them out a little bit.
Okay.
Jack, you got anything?
No comment. Thank you.
Mark?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. I got a couple questions. One is, how many folks do we still have remaining in the plant operation right now? I know your budget shows 17 for this year.
There are 14 IBEW and 5 staff, so total of 19 that are there at the plant.
Exactly what and I guess I'm having a hard time understanding that now that the plant is shut down, why you would need 5, is that supervisors or warehousemen, or?
We have two supervisors that are over the maintenance crews. We have 2 supervisors that are over the turbine operators, the combustion turbine operators. And then we have a superintendent that is taking the place of used to be production superintendent and plant manager. We have 1 person that's taking care of all those responsibilities.
And we have what is it? That's 6 people, right?
That's 5.
5? Okay, I'm sorry. I must have got that wrong. So the remaining 14 are going to be handling the 6 combustion turbines and anything that takes place in the plant. Is that what your thinking is?
Well, we have 4 operators who are, they operate the combustion turbines. And then we have our mechanics, electrician, and technicians that take care of all the equipment.
Okay. I just hope if we got any city councilmen on there listening, I think that'd be a great opportunity. And hopefully the consultants, the folks from Texas or Oklahoma, wherever they're from, hopefully they have a good bird's eye view on seeing what the best practices are for a plant that's shut down, and hopefully give us some input on that. So,
and that is, this is Jim, that is something we're looking at. This is a mode of operation that we haven't done before. So we're trying to balance, we still can be called on 24/7 to operate those turbines. So how to balance our personnel against anticipated overtime and vacations and making sure we have the right mix. That's an ongoing process that we are going through internally as well as with the consultants.
Oh, okay. Are we staffing around the clock, or is it everybody during the daylight hours and then called in on overtime if the combustion turbines are needed to turn on?
Right now we're experimenting with a flexible schedule that we think will cover the anticipated run times, and we'll have some shifts that are not covered, that if we got a call to operate, then we would have to call someone in. But we're trying to work out a balance that will cover the expected hours that SPP would call on us.
Okay. And that's all anybody could ask, but that number seems way high still. Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations on your job, sir.
Well, thank you. Or condolences. We'll see you in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Mr. McDowell, do you have anything?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, have we covered everything? I think it comes up to board member comments at this time. Mr. Land, would you like to start off?
Yes. I think it would be helpful if the last meeting, or maybe it's the one before, we went through a process of identifying what were called long-term goals. I'm not sure they were actually goals, but anyway, we identified various activities or projects that we wanted to discuss in the future, and we added 2 or 3 today. I think it would be helpful if we had a schedule that laid out over whatever time period that we knew in advance which of these we were going to have addressed. And I think the staff needs to develop that schedule for us so that we know that these are going to be addressed at some point in time. Obviously, they can't all come up in the next month or two. But I'd just like staff if they develop a schedule for those, what were called goals, so that we know.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Christine.
Yeah, this is Christina. I just wanted to chime in here just for a second. You know, we used to have an action item log that we would give out monthly. And for quite some time, you know, with no management at IP&L and back and forth management, that kind of got lost. And we did start that back up at the beginning of the year, but then with all this COVID stuff and no meetings, we've kind of let that slide again. So we had updated it several months ago, and we are updating that now. And as you know, there was so much talked about at the last meeting. So we're really trying to go through all of that, make sure we've got everything down. Some of this stuff, of course, has been brought up, you know, months ago or even longer. So we're trying to combine all that, and we're trying to add a little bit more to it as far as if it was an actual motion that was made or just a request. And we're going to make a list on that same spreadsheet of past motions that have been done and accomplished requests. And then also a section that would have possible future agenda items, like if somebody has an idea, but it's not going to be looked at for a while, then we'd put that on that list. And we do have a section on there where our staff can put down an anticipated response date. And of course that can, you know, change around as needed, but it kind of gives an idea of when or how long our staff might need to get those going or get those reports back to you or presentations or whatever it may be. So I just wanted to let you know we're working on that. We hopefully will have something done next week to get out to you. And then if you all would just take a look at that list, and if you see anything that's not correct on there or anything that needs to be taken off that's already been handled or anything that needs to be added, if you would just send me a quick email and I'll get those adjusted, and then we'll resend out before the next meeting with your packet.
Thank you, Christina. That's great.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that satisfactory, Garland?
Yes.
Okay. Jack, you have any last comments?
Hey, Chairman Porter, whenever you get a chance, I'd like to add something back.
Okay.
Dan Montgomery.
Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just going to get back with the Member McDowell on the. I spoke to one of our staff members about the configuration of donations, and she said it got put on hold because of the putting in the new rates. But what she's got moving forward is a roundup option with also an option for a customer to just add an amount to their bill to be donated. So sounds like it's in the works, but it's on hold until they do the rates first, and then that comes back up.
That was for Garland. Are you all right, Garland?
So do you have any idea when you'll be able to do that?
Well, we have to test all the rates, of course, and I thought we were shooting for like October. This is off the top of my head right now. So hopefully it will all be done at the same time. When the new rates are put in, we would also do that, but they were trying not to confuse the two. Is this starting to bring home, Jim?
Yes, it's October 1 is when the new rates are supposed to be in effect. So between now and then, we'll be getting all that testing wrapped up.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
So hopefully
Thanks, Dan.
it's a lot quicker than what I was anticipating. So that's good.
That's good, Dan. I appreciate your help. Mr. McDonald, you have something?
Yeah, I got a few things. When we're talking about people being delinquent on their bills, could you add on that report how many of the ratepayers are currently in rate payment plans and how much is owed in those also? I think that'd be important to know. How many people are trying but are in rate payment plans? I don't know if that goes to Jim or if that goes to Dan, but I think that'd be helpful when you add that to that report. The other thing I'd like to add is I want to thank you for the discussion on the debt. It was very enlightening today. I think Brian cleared up a lot of issues for me in particular. Basically, if someone invests in these things, they're investing in an annuity and they plan on it being there a number of years. So that's very good to know. The other thing, and I guess finally, and that was a kudos to Brian. I know he doesn't get it very often. It's my hope that either someone from the board or the city acknowledges the contributions that Jerry Atkins made to our committee. I would hate to think that someone hasn't reached out to Jerry, that he wasn't elected back in the on the board. But if not, I think that's a disservice to people in the future that would be willing to serve on a board and then their contributions not being noted. And Jerry, I consider him as a very good friend, and I think I wish him the best. So with that, and I also like to welcome our new member. She can only hear us on the internet, but welcome aboard, and I hope this is very successful for you also. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mark. You stole my thunder. I was going to bring up Jerry, but I will at my end. Mr. McDowell, do you have anything to finish up with?
I was just going to say pretty much the same thing about Jerry. Being the second newest member of this board, he was very helpful. I mean, he's going to be missed. I mean, he was very, very helpful to me. I also want to thank the city staff. I think you guys are doing a great job. What I've seen so far, I'm impressed with. And that's about all I have to say today. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Larry Porter, Christine. Adam, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Is there any way through your poll and whatever we can get some kind of recognition for Jerry Atkins as serving for the 2 years that he did, of thanks from the city?
I will work on something and pass that along.
Okay, I would really appreciate it. I know he would, and it's like Mark said, maybe it'd be a little help for people wanting to volunteer for this abuse.
Sure thing. When you're finished, sir, if I could add something as well, I'd appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Again, this is Adam Norris. There were a series of questions going back to our discussion about the financial items in the budget and a pretty robust request for information there. And I think sounds like we can do this, but I would just ask that instead of doing this in August, allowing us a little additional time for the September meeting to provide that to you all. As you know, we're wrapping up the end of the fiscal year. There's a lot of moving parts here that we're still trying to get complete, and this of all years is an important one to see where we end up the fiscal year with a lot of the changes and potential issues with our revenue streams. So if possible, I'd just ask that perhaps you give us a little bit more time, another 30 days to pull all that information together, and we can have a good, robust discussion with the committee at that time.
Adam, that sounds good to me. You got to, again, I reiterate that we expect everything yesterday. And I understand where you're coming from, and I'm sure we will go along with your request, and it'll be fine as long as we get the information.
Thank you, sir.
Again, I want to thank Christine for all her hard work and all the staff that have showed up today, and I look forward to working with you all the remaining year. If that's all, I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Garland, so move.
Okay, Christine, is that all right? Are we adjourned?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.